But it was high time we took a look at the world of Planetside 2, as there have been a number of occurrences since we last drop-podded onto its sunny shores. I guess in catching up, we should first talk about the elephant that's no longer in the room. Planetside Arena, the ill-fated battle royale, although it wasn't just going to be a BR, it was going to have other game modes too, but all that seems rather academic now, has closed its doors before they were ever really open. If you recall, I did look at the game a few times. I had problems with the initial idea to monetize, make it pay to play, but then indeed they did turn it into free to play, but after that announcement it never really seemed to get out of the starting blocks. When I looked at the game last, there was much to like. The graphical improvements had made the game look a little bit more 2019. There were ideas about how Battle Royale might work in a Planetside world. It really just needed more players and more time iterating on what they had. But as we now know, that's no longer an option, so Planetside 2 remains the only current Planetside title. So what's happening with that game now? Well, they announced their January update a couple of days back. There's some tuning and general bug fixing, but the meat of the additions is the new Empire Strength system. This seems to take aim at motivating players to capture territory, as key facilities now have intrinsic value to your faction's ambitions to take over the whole continent. If your team has the centre territory of the map, it's worth 15 strength. Major facilities are another 15 strength, but the real points come from linking your territory to an enemy warp gate. This is worth 50, and therefore there's 100 points on the table for this alone. And speaking of that, it's that 100 point threshold that kicks off a meltdown alert to finally decide the winner of that continent, which then of course locks like normal. It's an interesting system that seems to want to give content to squads looking for achievable goals, but it isn't just purely based off territory, so ghost capping a bunch of areas isn't really good use of your time and efforts. The end of the patch notes are perhaps even more interesting. Doing this sets us up for our big update later in Q1, gets players used to taking territories for strategic value, hint hint, and alleviates the arbitrary 3-continent events then meltdown alert cycle that we were in before. This cycle led to continents staying open for 5 hours or more if players were unable to achieve the 41% territory control after the 3-continent events were complete. But then, intriguingly tasty details. We'll be having a live stream later this month, 31st or sooner, to reveal all the hush-hush, super secret stuff we've been working on, and we'll announce the livestream date once we've got the full loop feeling cohesive. It's going to be awesome. I really hope they aren't overhyping what they have planned, but for a game 7 years after release, to have devs psyched about what they're seeing in private is really kind of cool, and honestly feels motivating as a player and a fan of the franchise. And quickly just to say, if you are enjoying the video, just tap the thumb up button, helps me out with discoverability on YouTube and stuff like that. So if you do choose to do that, then thanks, it is very much appreciated. If we look at Planetside 2's player numbers on Steam, and we see them as pretty steady over the past few months. The game has been out for a while and has solidified down to the core group of people who know that they don't get that experience anywhere else, and therefore they play Planetside 2. But for Daybreak, the company that develops Planetside 2, the other title that they have out at the moment is H1Z1, or I guess it's just Z1 now. That bit of rebranding seems to have shortened the name, and somehow I find it more difficult to remember now. Well, if you look at the recent concurrent player numbers on Steam, it's actually Planetside 2 that has been the more popular in the recent months. Its stable level of CCUs is actually higher than the previous juggernaut that was H1Z1. It's also worth pointing out that H1Z1 has had a bump in the past few days. I believe this is linked to a tournament that was announced and is going to happen on the 17th. Its numbers shot up a lot in percentage terms, and I guess we'll see if that stabilizes past this tournament. I hope it does, because there are clearly people who want to enjoy playing this game, and seeing the numbers potentially drop below a level that undermines what the core gameplay actually needs isn't what anyone wants to see. But in that space, and I must add that this is all crystal ball gazing here, with development hopefully turning to Planetside 2 as the place to put future efforts for Daybreak, I wonder about the statement from executive producer Andy Seitz made in October of last year. So when we think about what the Planetside 3 experience needs to be, we know that there are incredibly high expectations from all of you. Planetside Arena is intended to be the stepping stone to Planetside 3, which we envision expanding from the current battlefields of Araxis to fully fledged galactic war, with empires exploring, colonizing, and conquering one another within an expansive galaxy. We now know that Planetside Arena will not be that stepping stone, but looking at the lie of the land, it's clear that a new title would certainly be what this franchise, and I'm guessing Daybreak 2, could really do with. It's tempting to look at the jump from Planetside 1 to Planetside 2, and then hope that Planetside 3 would be a similar gate. That's a root and branch creation of something wholly new would be the next big release for Planetside. Planetside 2 on release did look like the efforts of a sizable development team working solely on that project for an extended time. It was a customized engine, wholly new designs and art assets, new game design, monetization, and so on. That's not the work of a couple of months. Looking at the realities of today, the layoffs from Daybreak at the end of last year, for example, from outside looking in, it's difficult to imagine the same sort of grounding being available for the next chapter of Planetside. It made me wonder about what the sort of thing we, as a community of fans, would be happy with to actually be that next chapter. Things like the game engine have honestly never been in a better spot. All that DX11 work really showed results, and frame rates and frame consistencies seem to have never been better. And so we look at our missing stepping stone. For all the scoffing from Planetside 2 fans, there was actually much to like about the way Planetside Arena was headed if you removed the Battle Royale from its direction. The interface was massively more modern in style and operation, the quality of the visuals was a step forward too, texture density felt higher, which with the multicoloured lighting led to a more varied palette for the game, and even the Borderlands-esque outline looked quite good. So thinking about those improvements, if there's a way to lift the assets that we have in the game now to a similar standard, and I know that will be a lot more work than it sounds, with the improvements we're going to see to the metagame from like the dev stream and other features coming through this year, and yes, I'm talking about OSHA as well, I'm wondering if I'd be happy to call all that together Planetside 3. Would it be like the step from Planetside 1 to 2? No, clearly not. But it would, or indeed part of it, be something more attainable and realistic given the nature of where we stand today as fans of the game, wishing it the best of futures. For all the love we have for the game, we need to be realistic that for many new players, they see the old interface or the older graphics, and if they don't have friends telling them that, you know what, there's really good stuff inside this game, then they can just walk on by. This is a game released in 2012 after all, it's vying for attention with brand new titles. Planetside 3 could be a confident step forward, a fresh chance to show the world the gameplay that they can't get anywhere else, with more content than ever and visuals brought more up to date. To be clear, I know this is a huge amount of work. I'm not sure what numbers of staff are even on the development team now, but I'm thinking about what we have now and how we can build something to see Planetside compete and flourish in this new decade. I'm even more interested than normal on your thoughts on all this. Just what would you be happy to see in Planetside 3 given where we are today? Are you excited to see what updates Planetside 2 will be getting in the near future too? Leave a comment below right now, I'll of course be reading every single one of them. If you like this video, please do tap the subscribe button and the notification bell. It helps me grow the channel and continue to make videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.